Hi everyone.
So here they do not have to pay overrides, पर के बच्चे कैसे हो जाते हैं?
All right, so we are taking this logical reasoning section up for analysis. And at the outset, I would like to say, I would like to congratulate AILET, the body, NLU Delhi, for giving out a section, logical reasoning section, that was not controversial. Maybe some of the questions had some, there was some confusion around some options, but they were very few in number. Okay, mostly the section was straightforward, although some of you might have found it lengthy. Okay, a lot many deductive reasoning questions, a lot many assumption questions, but as I said, not many questions that were that may have had some confusing options, right? So in that respect, yes, AILET has done a good job this time around. Okay, better than what the logical reasoning section Clat gave. Okay, so now coming to the questions, and let's do them one by one. What I'll do is I'll be giving you the correct options with some explanation around the option. And for the deductive reasoning questions, what we'll do is I'll go with the correct options. And if you need an explanation for some option, you can let me know in the live chat. Okay. So I will continue looking down because I have a different set in front of me to be. So in order that I'm giving you the right options, and also I'll be looking at the chat, which is on my phone, through my phone. Okay. All right. So the first one here, the quickest way to decarbonize in the near term is scaling up renewable energies to replace coal and gas. This will be even more important as transport and home heating become electrified, while electrification and the deployment of renewables can go a long way for some sectors. And while is always good as an important word with respect to a passage. So while it is good for some sectors, this will not be enough, right? So here lies the opinion of the author. Cement and steel, just a sec. Cement and steel manufacture, for instance, cannot be simply electrified and powered by renewables. Similarly, heavy-duty transport such as air travel, shipping, and long-haul trucking presents a challenge. So these two sectors will present a challenge, right? Which of the following statements can be properly inferred from the passage? Inference question. A says transport and home heating cannot be powered using coal and gas, and home heating cannot be powered using coal and gas. It says heavy duty transport presents a challenge but cannot be powered using coal and gas. I think it's saying the opposite. Okay, so we can eliminate this. Air travel and shipping can be decarbonized over the long term using current renewable energy technologies. Air travel can be decarbonized. It presents a challenge. Okay, so let's keep it on the side. Does not look to be an attractive option. Then existing modes of generating renewable energy are insufficient for decarbonizing cement manufacturing. Yes, this is what he said, right? Maybe sufficient for some sectors. For some sectors, it is sufficient, but this will not be enough for some others, right? And some others, the example given was cement and steel manufacturing sector. So option C here is correct. Okay, so don't get misled by the options that have already been marked using a pencil in this particular copy. because this is taken from a student. So I'll be marking my options in green. So option C is correct here. Okay. I'll just keep checking the chat. Okay. The next question, the cloud burst caused extensive damage to roadways around the town, making them unsuitable for heavy vehicles such as trucks and buses carrying more than 20 people. As a result, villagers being extracted via air. The roadways cannot be mended until everyone is extracted safely. Let's look at option A. Materials for mending, and again an inference question. Okay, conclusion necessarily follows. We can treat it as an inference. Materials for mending roadways will have to be transported via air. For mending roadways will have to be transported via air. We don't know this. Okay. Let's look at B. No person or vehicle is entering the town via roadways. It says here unsuitable for heavy vehicles. So from this, we cannot infer that no person or vehicle is entering the town via roadways. So again, we can eliminate this. C. The villagers would have used trucks to leave town. If the roads weren't damaged. Roads weren't damaged, would have used trucks. What about buses? So again, we are not sure here, okay? Since we have this option, none of the above, we'll go with none of the above here. So D here, 82D. Okay. All right. Let's look at 83rd. Ayurveda is a traditional branch of medical science in India. Ayurveda techniques have great capabilities and complex procedures, including surgeries, can be performed effectively using the principles of Ayurveda. Okay. Based on the information above, which conclusion necessarily follows? One says Ayurveda is better form of medicine than allopathy. So this comparison is not mentioned. So we can eliminate this. 2. Ayurveda is a neglected science. Neglected. We don't know this from the argument, do we? So we can eliminate this. So the correct option here is option D. 83rd, option D. Okay. Let's move on. Uh, 84th. There are many ways to be successful in life. One way is to work hard and be good at your job. Another way is to be street smart and develop a great emotional quotient. Yet another way is always follow the advice of your elders. Okay. Based on the information above, which conclusion necessarily follows? Again, inference question, right? Necessarily follows. 1. All three are equally easy of being successful. All three are equally easy. Equally easy. This is not getting inferred. So we can eliminate this. It is possible to be successful without working hard. So the statement has given us 3 ways. 1, 2, and 3, right? So if one way, if you are not getting successful by one way, you can use this another way, and you can then use yet another way. Okay. So yes, it is possible. Look at how this statement has been framed very moderately. It is possible, it says, okay, without working hard. And according to me, this follows. And we'll go with B here. 84th, B, Bombay. Okay. Once again. All right. 85th. The freedom of speech is not absolute. certain categories of speech, such as hate speech, sedition, defamation, are not protected by the Constitution. Okay. Based on the information above, which conclusion necessarily follows? Again, an inference question. 1. Obscene speech is protected by the Constitution. Obscene speech is protected by the Constitution. Is there any mention of obscene speech? No mention. Okay. And it looks like it is not protected by the Constitution. Okay. Let's eliminate this. 2. Defamation is a criminal offense. Nothing said about this. Nothing said. So this also does not follow. So option D. So and we have done enough questions. Okay, we have done enough questions. The Clat Possible students, wherein these statements are given, and we have to check whether a conclusion necessarily follows or not. And the constant advice is that we will stick to the statement. Okay. All right. So 86 is, I think, the legal teacher will be able to cover it, but I think it does not really test any legal knowledge, this one. It says suits filed within this period are necessarily maintainable, and suits filed after this period would mean after 3 years are not maintainable. Okay. And then we are given a date 2017, and then we are given a date 2022, and we can clearly see that the duration is beyond, this period is beyond 3 years now. So we can easily say the suit is not maintainable. Not 3 years, not within 3 years, not maintainable. Okay. All right, let's look at the next one. Yes, so a lot many statement argument questions as well. There's a statement, and then we have to check whether the argument is strong or not. And we will look at this. So the only, so this time around, they have not written it as a statement here. They've used a new term issue, but these are statement argument questions, quite a few of them in the paper. All right. Is Lebron James the best professional basketball player of all time? Argument 1 says yes. Lebron James has had the largest fan base among all professional basketball players in the history of the sport. So largest fan base and best basketball player could mean two different things. Popular, best. Not necessarily the same thing. Okay. I would not mark it as strong. Argument 2. No, Lebron James has changed his team too many times. Again, I will not mark this one as strong, because changing a team does not necessarily have a connection with best professional basketball player. Okay. So this one, 2, is weak. Argument 3. Yes, no other player has scored more points in their professional career than Lebron James has scored more points, right? So this becomes a strong argument, right? This is what is to be considered to be able to say that Lebron James is the best professional basketball player. So yeah, argument 3 is strong. 87 C. Argument 3, only argument 3 is strong. Okay. All right. Let's look at this one. 88. Children should not read novels that contain instances of racism. All right. And person 2 in response to, and we have seen some of the questions. These are method of reasoning questions. How has speaker 2 responded to speaker 1? Again, all CP students would have been comfortable doing these questions. We have done much tougher questions than the ones that have been asked in the exam. Okay. All right. So children should not read novels that contain instances of racism. Parents and teachers of children can use such novels to educate children against racism. Okay, which of the following is correct? Person 1 and person 2 agree that some novels contain instances of racism. Yes, they agree. Okay, one of them is saying children should not read. The other one is saying parents can use these novels to educate children against racism. So yeah, they agree that some novels contain instances of racism. Okay, person 2 supports racism. So this is incorrect. So question number 88, the correct option is A. Okay, the next one. I'll just quickly check if we have any live chats here. Okay. Okay. Nothing much. Chaminder, you have any specific query? You can let me know. Okay. All right. Cocoa is rich in plant chemicals called flavonols that may help to protect the heart. Do you remember? I think there was a question that we did, and inference question that we did, the Clat Possible students, which talked about flavonoids in apples. Okay. So when I read this question, it took me to that question, but the questions are not related. But let's go through this one. Uh, Cocoa is rich in plant chemicals called flavonols that may help to protect the heart. Dark chocolate contains up to 2 to 3 times more flavanol-rich cocoa solids than milk chocolate. Flavanols have been shown to support the production, blah, 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 that helps to relax the blood vessels and improve blood flow. Okay, so flavanol is good. Cocoa is good. Dark chocolates are good. Okay. Flavanols in chocolate can increase insulin sensitivity in short-term studies. In the long run, this could reduce risk of diabetes. Right. So flavanol is good for health. Okay. For blood pressure, for insulin, for diabetes. Okay. Which of the following, if true, strengthens the explanation above? Strengthen question. Okay. Option A: communities with high levels of dietary intake of dark chocolate exhibit low rates of death from hypertension. As soon as I see this option, this looks to me a very straightforward option, a very textbook option. I'll mark this, but let's look at B, C, and D is none of the above. Okay, so B is says individuals with low levels of nitric oxide in the endothelium exhibited relaxed blood cells, low levels of nitric oxide. So no real need for supporting the production of nitric oxide, because even with low levels they had relaxed blood vessels, so does not really support the argument. Okay, there is no peer reviewed study which proves the link between intake of cocoa intake of cocoa flavanols and reduction in risk of diabetes. Again, does not stand then. Maybe it tends to vegan, I think. There is no peer-reviewed study which proves the link. Which proves there's no study that supports it. So it cannot strengthen, right? So A is correct. Okay. Question number 90 then. AI often elicits, one second. AI often elicits a sense of amazement, of wonder, of possibility for the future. But again, always an important word. Just as AI offers advancements, there is also the potential for a bleak future. Machines are prone to bias and racism. These machines learn by running training data through algorithms, each crafted by human handlers. Therefore, if the data is inputted into the system is biased, the result will be biased too. Right. Okay. This is dangerous, and the threat needs to be addressed before biased AI systems become ubiquitous. Okay, they should be addressed. Ultimately, AI systems have the potential to deepen existing systematic inequalities, particularly in industries like healthcare, employment, and criminal justice. So, all this data, which is fed into the AI systems, on which the AI systems are trained, okay, this data, okay, since it has an element of human intervention, okay, there are human handlers. So the tendency could be, the potential is there that this data could be biased. So if a biased data is put into the system as an input, the output will reflect those biases, right? So there's a problem. Which one of the following is an assumption required by the argument? Okay. Let's look at A. Existing data sets can incorporate the biases of human handlers, which reflects in AI output. Well, can incorporate, right? Yes, they can incorporate the biases of human handlers, which reflects in AI output. So this is the assumption, right? But let's check B and C and the rest of the options. Large scale deployment of AI systems has been hindered by the likelihood of biased results. Has been hindered, not mentioned. C, human handlers have tried to manipulate AI systems through the use of biased data. Have tried to manipulate. We don't know. Nothing said, nothing implied. Okay. So C does not look to be a good option. It just says, just look at it. It says it has the potential. Whether they have tried to manipulate, we don't know. And the author is saying intentionally or unintentionally, there could be biases. Okay. He does not necessarily imply that this data could be corrupted. He does not imply that. He just says this data could be a biased data set. Okay. So therefore, C, according to me, is not an assumption. The industries like healthcare, employment, and criminal justice are in urgent need of AI systems. No, this is not an assumption. So option A is the best. A is the best here. Okay. It uses the word can. Can shows, reflects potential. Okay, goes with the argument. Option A is correct, according to me. We wait for the answer key. Okay. Okay. All right. The next one, black people are about twice as likely to develop Alzheimer's disease as white people. And I'll not read the entire thing, but what it says is the representation of black in, in these groups, when the drugs are getting tested, they're tested on some human beings, but this set of human beings on which the drug is tested, in them, number of black people, the representation of black people is abysmally low. Only 19 people, it says, or 0.6% of 3285 participants in the final stage trials identified themselves as black. Okay. So just this tiny number of people. Then which of the following statements can be inferred from the passage? Okay, A says drug companies find it economical to enroll non-black participants in clinical trials. Economical. They find it cheap. We don't know. Black people are reluctant to enroll in clinical trials. Are they? Again, this can't be inferred from the passage. We are not sure. C, the approval of drug X will enable pharmaceutical companies to better understand Alzheimer's disease. Okay. Again, maybe not. Let's look at D. The approved drug X may not be as safe and efficacious among black patients as it would be among white patients. So look at the use of may not here. And that's why the author is expressing this concern, right? That the representation of black in these groups is uh, is really low. Okay, and this, according to the author, this is an issue. According to the author, this is an issue. And why is this an issue? He says the disease is still poorly understood, and the brain pathology and disease genetics may be different in groups with different ancestry. Okay, and from that we can infer that it may not be as safe and efficacious among black patients. May not. Okay, this makes the option moderate. All right, so option D is correct. All right. All right, so these are some of the AR sets. Okay, I would let the AR teacher to explain it to you. We'll anyway provide the answer key to this. So we are focusing on the hardcore CR questions right now, and the AR teacher will cover those. I will let the AR teacher cover those. Okay. 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 This question here: fake news and sophisticated disinformation campaigns. I'll just clear the screen. Fake news and sophisticated disinformation campaigns are especially problematic in democratic countries, and there is growing debate on how to address these issues without undermining the benefits of digital media. All right. In order to maintain an open democratic system, it is important that government, business, and consumers work together to solve these problems. So they should work together to solve these problems. Okay. Which one of the following explanations, if valid, most helps to justify the above reasoning? Helps to justify. Justify would be like a strengthened question. Okay, we can treat it as a strengthened question. A says an effective means of countering fake news and disinformation campaigns is to revert to print media. Revert to print media. He says without undermining the benefits of digital media. So there are benefits of digital media according to the author. So there's no point reverting to print media. This one can be eliminated. It's not strengthening the author's position. Only governments have the power to counter fake news and sophisticated disinformation campaigns. The author says that governments, business, and consumers should come together to counteract this fake news. So only governments have the power does not look like strengthening the author's position. Okay, so we can eliminate this. C. Autocratic systems of government ensure that only verified and accurate information is disseminated. Again, does nothing to strengthen the argument, which is focused on democratic systems. D. Democratic societies are underpinned by freedom of speech and expression. So these societies are underpinned by freedom of speech and expression. And in order to maintain such an open democratic system, all right, it is important that all the stakeholders being government, business, and consumers, work together to solve these problems so that the society, the democratic societies, continue enjoying the freedom of speech and expression, okay, without really bothering too much about fake news and disinformation, okay. So option D provides that support, okay. So for 96, we'll go with D, Delhi. All right. The next one. Again, I'll just clear the screen. We recently evaluated the impact that an amendment to a particular national legislation would have on the population by undertaking a survey in the most populous state of the country as well as a nationwide survey. So two surveys were undertaken. Okay, one most populous state of the country, a survey there, and a nationwide survey. We were unable to get any information from the national survey results. However, we found that response to the amendment was highly promising in statewide survey. So in the statewide survey, the 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 response was promising. Okay, and on that basis, the legislator or his party concluded that national population's response would be promising as well. So it was promising in the statewide survey, it will be promising in the national survey. So by the looks of it, it seems to be a case of overgeneralization. Okay, but let's look at the options. The legislators reasoning does which of the following? A says infers a statistical generalization by deploying statistical tool to different data sets. Yes, he does that, right? Deploying statistical tools to different data sets. There were two different data sets, and one of them, the results were not very. The results did not throw anything concrete, but one of them showed promising result, right? Based on that, the legislator or his party generalized that even the national population response would be promising as well. So yes, there is an instance of this. Okay, so we'll keep it as a potentially correct option. All right. B says bases the prediction about the impact of a phenomenon on the impact of the phenomenon's cause. So bases the prediction about the impact of a phenomenon, and that phenomenon being amendment to a particular national legislation on the impact of the phenomenon's cause. So the cause of amendment to a particular national legislation, cause of the amendment. Okay, not really. This is messy. Okay, there's no reference to the phenomenon's cause or cause of the amendment. Okay, so we can eliminate this. C makes a prediction about future events on facts from multiple recent comparable events. No, not this. Okay, multiple recent comparable events sounds incorrect. Okay, it's incorrect. D uses evidence from a case where direct evidence is available to make a conclusion about a dissimilar case. About a dissimilar case, not really dissimilar, where direct evidence is not available. So using evidence from a case where direct evidence is available, in fact, he is using the result of one case and applying it to the other case. He's not using the same evidence, but using the result. And but more importantly, the problem is with this dissimilar case. All right, I think we got stuck for a moment. All right, so I will repeat D. So the problem with D is, one second, dissimilar case. So the cases are not dissimilar. Okay, so therefore we can eliminate D here. Okay, option A, 97. All right. Just a sec. One second. Criminal Procedure Identification Bill. I think we'll be able to do this. Okay, so it says the Criminal Procedure Identification Bill seeks to authorize the taking of measurements of convicts and other persons for the purposes of identification and investigation in criminal matters. Okay. And person one says the bill should not become a law because it allows for collection of measurements without any provisions for data protection. Okay. Person two says, I disagree. Data protection measures can be developed, but the bill will help law enforcement agencies to utilize the latest technology to identify criminals. So again, the Clat Possible students, they have done questions like these. Speaker one, speaker two, what we need to identify is on which particular point speaker two disagrees with speaker one. Okay, so disagreement is here on the conclusion. This is the conclusion, this is the premise. So the disagreement is with the conclusion, not with the premise. Okay, it allows for collection of measurements without any provisions for data protection. How do we know that the disagreement is not on the premise? Because in the very next line, person two says data protection measures can be developed. Okay, so he kind of concedes that yes, this would require some data protection provisions, but he says data protection measures can be developed. Okay, maybe later on, but the bill will help law enforcement agencies to utilize the latest technology to identify criminals. So agrees with the conclusion, does not agree with, does not agree with the conclusion, agrees with the premise, concedes there. Which of the following is correct? Person one and person two agree that the bill should not become a law under any circumstances. Okay, this is wrong because person two is clearly saying that it should become a law. Option B, person one and person two agree that the data protection is a valid concern with respect to the bill. Person one and person two agree that data protection is a valid concern. Let's keep it on the side. According to person two, concerns about data protection are sufficient to reject the bill. Of course, not. He says, despite that data protection concern, the bill should be passed. So option B here looks to be the best. Okay, we'll go with option B because there is an implicit agreement on part of person two because he says data protection measures can be developed. As in, he's not disagreeing with the fact that the provisions are not there. Okay. All right. So I would like to say here that the AILET body could still give D as the correct option because they may get, sticky with this word, valid concern. So according to me, if they are not too technical, they do not get too technical with this valid word, then they'll give it as B. But there is a small chance, but there is a chance that they might give D here. Okay, let's wait for the official answer D in that case for this particular question. Okay, all right. The next one. Okay, so as of April 2022, a few cases of COVID XC variant have been found in India, which may be more transmissible than previous variants. Okay, the government should institute a national lockdown preemptively to prevent a potential new wave of COVID XC. Although lockdowns cause great difficulty for people, there is no other way to prevent a potential new wave. A national lockdown is a drastic measure that severely harms businesses and people. The risk posed by new COVID XC variant does not suggest, does not justify a national lockdown. Okay, so that is person 2 disagrees with person 1 over this step, uh, that the government should institute a national lockdown. Okay, but we do understand that what they agree on. They agree on that lockdowns cause great difficulty for the people. Okay, all right. Uh, so option C is straightforward here. Person 1 and person 2 agree that that a lockdown has negative consequences. Okay, so they agree here. What they disagree on, whether the government should institute a national lockdown or not. They disagree there. So option C is correct. The next one, again, statement conclusions. Okay, children who enjoy reading books usually do so indoors. Children should spend time playing indoors. Children should not read books. This is extreme. Children who enjoy reading books never play outdoors. Again, extreme. Okay, so neither one nor two follows. The next one. All right, so 101 is a legal reasoning question. We'll let the legal teacher take this one. 102 also, uh, we'll let the legal teacher take this one. So some of these questions are sort of hybrid questions. They have some element of deductive reasoning, but then the context is completely legal. So what we are doing here is where there is an element of legal reasoning, we'll allow the legal teacher to handle this. Okay, so 101 and 102. So 103, okay, 103 can be answered. Okay, 103 can be answered using CR. It says anyone who pleads on behalf of another in a court is a pleader. Then it says all lawyers are pleaders. Okay. X, a lawyer pleads his own case in court. All right. So the first statement says anyone who pleads on behalf of another is a pleader. But the next statement says all lawyers are pleaders. Okay. And X, a lawyer, pleads his own case in court. According to me, the correct option here should be A. Okay. B says X is not a pleader in this case as he is not pleading on behalf of another. So, of course, here it says anyone who pleads on behalf of another in a court is a pleader. But we don't know if he is not pleading. तो ऐसे दिया हुआ है कि pleads on behalf of another, then pleader. Okay, and the second statement says, so from this we cannot say if he is not pleading on behalf of another, then he is not a pleader. Okay, so that's my reason to eliminate B. Okay, because if we choose B, then it will be a case of mistaken negation. Okay, so according to me, B should not be correct. A looks the best. X is a pleader in this case because the next statement, from the next statement, we know all lawyers are pleaders. Okay, so let's see what the official answer key says in this case. Okay, 104. Not everything that is punishable is an offense. Only that which is punishable is an offense. Okay, so it says here. Only that which is punishable is an offense. Okay, so offense is sufficient, right? And punishable is necessary. Okay, only what is punishable is an offense, so only makes it necessary. Okay, now it says X is a school student who did not submit her homework on time and is punished by given extra homework. Okay, so punished, can we say he committed an offense? So from punished, we cannot conclude he has committed an offense. From offense, we can conclude that it is punishable. Okay. So A is not correct here. Similarly, B is not correct here. C, we do not have sufficient information to determine whether X has committed an offense. So option C, according to me, is the correct option. Okay. All right. So this one also can be solved using deductive. Only registered trademarks can be infringed. So it says only registered trademarks. So infringed is on the sufficient and only registered trademarks. So registered trademarks is being a registered trademark is necessary. Okay. Then it says copying a registered trademark, okay, is sufficient to constitute infringement. Okay, infringement. Okay, so now let's look at the fact given. Okay, X owns the trademark Yamilicious restaurant. Y copies this trademark. So copy has happened. Okay, copy has happened. We still don't know whether this trademark is registered. Okay, X sues Y for infringement. Let's look at A. If X's trademark was registered, okay, so copy, we understand that copying has happened. Now, if we add to this that it is also registered, so it is now both copied and it is registered. Okay, with these two facts, can we say Y has necessarily infringed X's trademark? So now, according to the given statement, yes, option A is correct. Okay. Let's look at B. Y has necessarily infringed X's trademark. Okay. So necessarily, Y has necessarily infringed X's trademark. Only if X's trademark was registered. So it shows us that registration is necessary. Registration is necessary. Okay. And Y was aware of X's trademark. So it talks about awareness. It makes it a necessary condition, awareness. Necessary condition का मतलब है aware अगर नहीं था तो infringement नहीं हुआ. Okay. But from the given information, we don't know if awareness is necessary. Okay. So therefore, according to me, A is a better option than B. Again, we'll wait for the answer key on this. Going by pure deductive reasoning concept, going by pure deductive reasoning rules, A seems to be correct. Okay. 106. All right. 106. The world sees tech companies as giants. Okay. Okay. The world sees tech companies as giants with trillion-dollar market values and global networks. Q, renewed regulatory efforts to undermine their dominance. Okay. Shortly after the EU agreed stringent legislation to regulate big tech, the UK this week set out details of its plan. Yes. So regulation to rein in the big tech companies. Okay. Such moves are a response to big tech's competition stifling scale. Okay. So such moves are a response to big tech's competition stifling scale. Amazon will account for an estimated 39.5% of the US e-commerce and market this year, according to research. Meta has around the world these many users. Okay, so it's showing us how they are big companies and they have the scale to stifle, they have the scale to stifle competition. Okay, which of the following is the most appropriate assumption required by the above passage? Let's look at the options. Tech companies with small market shares will go bankrupt, not survive in absence of, will go bankrupt. There is a concern for the smaller companies, but bankrupt, is this the assumption required? Looks extreme. Let's keep it on the side. B, the regulatory efforts will help bolster the market shares of the companies, of the competitors, sorry, of Amazon, Meta, and Google, will help bolster the market shares. Okay. That's what the expectation is, but is that the assumption? Let's keep this one on the side as well. Let's look at C. Regulators have been struggling to rein in big tech. Have been struggling. Definitely not an assumption. Could be an inference. No, not an inference also. So we can eliminate this. So as of now, we have just been able to eliminate one option. Let's look at D. Tech companies with large market shares merit regulatory intervention in order to maintain competitive markets. In order to maintain competitive markets. Yes, it said competition stifling scale, right? And these regulations are being put, and the assumption is they merit regulatory intervention in order to maintain competitive markets, right? So option D is the clearest of them. Okay, it is very well framed. It is very well framed without making or without saying anything extreme. Okay, it looks like the option the test maker may have given as the correct option. Okay, so let's stick with D here for 106. All right. All right, 107. Okay. Okay. Ethanol can be blended into petrol to reduce the quantity of petrol required to run a vehicle. Okay. Thus reducing dependency on imported, costly, and polluting petroleum. All right. For India to meet its target of 20% ethanol blended in petrol by the year 2025, it will have to bring in more land under cultivation of feedstock agriculture products that can be converted into ethanol. Area that can be better utilized for generation of renewable energy and for furthering the electric vehicles adoption program in the country. Okay, so this is what is required. Okay. Besides, the ethanol target will not reduce earth warming emissions drastically. It may be detrimental to India's food security and will only help us inch towards the energy security. So there are limitations. Okay. there are limitations, but the author does say that more of the cultivation of feedstock, more of the land and the cultivation of feedstock will have to be, it has to be converted into ethanol. The agriculture products will have to be converted into ethanol. And for that, more land will have to bring in more land under cultivation of feedstock. Okay. All right. The conclusion drawn above follows logically if which one of the following is assumed. It says if. Okay. So when it says if which one of the following is assumed, it is sort of a sufficient assumption. So sufficient assumption, by sufficient assumption, I mean which one of the following options, if true, makes the conclusion true. अगर option सही होगा, तो conclusion follow करेगा. Okay, we can treat it as a strengthened question. Okay, all right. India's food security is already under threat. Already under threat. We can eliminate this. Dearth of renewable energy is hindering the adoption of electric vehicles in the country. Dearth of renewable energy is hindering the adoption of it. No, we'll again eliminate this. India is lagging behind in achieving its E20 target. Lagging behind in achieving its E20 target. Okay, looks like a tempting option. Okay, we'll keep it on the side. D, land to be used for feedstock cultivation as conditions suited for renewable energy generation. So land to be used for feedstock cultivation has conditions suited for renewable energy generation. This looks very, very relevant. Okay. If we put this as part of the argument, okay, imagine this statement is given as part of the argument. Okay. Land to be used for feedstock cultivation has conditions suited for renewable energy generation. And then it is said we will have to bring in more land under cultivation of feedstock agriculture products that can be converted into ethanol area, blah, 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 all of this. It works as a premise for the author's conclusion, right? So it strengthens the author's conclusion. So I think option D is the best here, but I would still like to wait for the answer key on this one, because C is equally tempting, right? India is lagging behind in achieving its E20 target, and therefore use more land. Use more land where cultivation of feedstock is happening. Okay, according to me, they will give D as the answer, but let's wait for this one. Okay. All right. This one is easy. The Constitution of India is a vital document. It lays out our rights and duties and places meaningful restrictions on our blah, blah, blah. It is imperative on our part, to educate ourselves about the Constitution. Therefore, every person must implies necessity, endeavor to place a copy of the Constitution in their home. Okay. And what is the assumption required? So unlike the previous question where the assumption was a sufficient assumption, okay, कि अगर assumption true है तो conclusion follow करेगा. This one here is asking us assumption required, the necessary assumption, कि अगर assumption गलत है तो conclusion follow नहीं करेगा. Okay, so I think the correct option here should be this, because it says every person must endeavor to place a copy of Constitution in their home. What is required? People are more likely to read a text if it is placed inside their home. If this is not the case, conclusion will not follow. This must will not follow, right? So option B, Bombay, is the correct one here. All right. Question number 109. Rather than adopt conventional ways of water consumption, we should all start storing our water in copper containers so that we can get benefits of copper intake. It is now well proven that storing water in a container for 24 to 48 hours is very effective in transmitting some copper content into the water. Transmitting copper content into the water. Okay. Which of the following is an assumption required by the above passage? It is safe to drink water out of a copper container. So it says copper container has health benefits. Copper enters our body through these copper containers, and therefore we should all start storing our water into copper containers. Okay, so what is the assumption? It is safe. If I negate this, I get it is not safe to drink water out of a copper container. Then the conclusion does not follow, right? So A is an assumption here. 109. Okay. Some of you might be confused with option C. C says storing water in copper containers is one of the best ways to ensure that the requisite copper content reaches your body. Is one of the best ways. It says here is a very effective system. Is very effective, it says. Very effective, one of the best. Not necessary. Okay. But again, for this question, let's wait for the answer key. According to me, A is the answer here, but let's wait. Okay. All right. 110. Mental health issues and stress or high anxiety often go together. Finding an emotional release like painting allows a person's mind to relax and let go of all the problems, blah, blah, blah. When people create something beautiful through painting, they stimulate the creativity, a low stress level leads to a happier, healthier lifestyle and helps improve overall mental health. I'm reading it very quickly, not reading it aloud on many occasions, using blah, blah, blah to fill in the blanks, but the assumption is that you have already seen these questions. Okay. Now, which of the following is an assumption required by the above passage? People can have a creative mind. All right. Yes. And that's why the passage is written. Okay. So A looks an assumption. B, the act of painting involves expressing emotions. Right. So it says emotional release. So yes, B is an assumption. C, stress reduces the quality of life. It says here a low stress level leads to a happier, healthier lifestyle. Right? So more stress, less happier, less healthier. So stress reduces the quality of life. Yes. So I think D is correct. Option D, Delhi. All right. So we have a series of deductive reasoning questions. And what I'll do is, unless I get any response in the chat box to provide an elaborate explanation, I'll give you the answer key here, and I'll quickly refer to my other copy that I've used to get to the answer key. All right. This one, mental health issues and stress or high anxiety. Okay, this is an assumption question. Oh, this we have done. Okay. 111. I just clear the screen. So I would like to remind you that don't get misled by the diagrams here, by the notes here, by the tick marks on the options through these pencils or pens. I'll be marking the option using a green ink. Okay, this is a copy of one of the students. Okay, all right. So some apples are fruits. Okay, so let me. Some apples are fruits question. All right. So some apples are fruits. Here on this question, option B is correct. Okay. So whoever has answered this question in this particular copy is correct. Option B is correct. 111. 112. Again, option B is correct. Okay. Sorry, 111 is B is correct, and apples are fruits. And this one here, all blue are red. Here, only 3 and 4 follow. So here also B is correct. This one, only 3 and 4 follow. Some white are blue, some blue are green. This one here. So you can do these easily through Venn diagrams, and I don't think all of you, as in the CP students, would require me to draw these Venn diagrams. If at all, you can let me know in the chat box. All right. 113, only tigers are fish. This one here. So this particular question, for example, 113, you could have done it by the rules of conditional reasoning. This could have been done by rules of syllogism. Only tigers are fish. Only A or B is treated as all B are A. So if it is given to us only A or B, we draw it like this. Only A or B. Okay. All right. So the question, the answer here is only 4. Only the fourth one follows. 113. 114. So 114, the correct option here is only 2 follows. Option C, only 2 follows. Okay. 115. So 115, the statement says we are short on time, so we better send these documents via speed post. Okay. Sending documents via speed post will take less time than some other means of sending documents. So this is an assumption. Option A is correct. Option C says sending documents via speed post will take less time than all other means of communication. Okay. So this one here says, so we better send these documents via speed post. So maybe this was this was being considered when they had so we don't know from the statement whether they had all options at their discretion. क्या उनके पास courier का भी option था, mail का भी था, email का भी था. Okay, maybe they just had 2 options, and this person said that we better send these documents via the second option rather than using the first option. Okay, so some here includes everything. It could be 1, it could be all, and it is a moderate use. Okay, it becomes a moderate assumption here. So 1A is an assumption. C, on the other hand, says all. Maybe the assumption is not all. Maybe the assumption is the options that are there at their discretion. Not all, but whatever options they had at that moment in time. Okay, but some does take care of all also. So some works better. Even if we are taking all as an assumption, some will become an assumption. Okay, so some is the bare minimum assumption required. We'll go with A, option A. All right, the next question, again a simple deductive question. Laptops, again I refer to my notes, and laptops are chocolates or toffees or chocolates. Okay, 1 second. Yes. Easy one. Some laptops are chocolates. All toffees are chocolates. Okay. So basically, I can draw this one. chocolates, toffees, and some laptops are chocolates. Okay. So the answer here is some laptops are toffees. We don't know. No toffees are laptops. Again, we don't know. But the possibility of these two happening is there. Both do not follow. Both are possible. And are these both contradictory? Some and no. Yes, they are contradictory. Okay. So either one or two follows. Option A is correct. 116. All right. 117, all boxes are plugs. The correct answer. Okay, so we have to figure out which of the statements is certainly false. Look at the options, certainly false. Okay, so all boxes are plugs, all plugs are bottles. Both these statements are positive statements. I don't have to check all of them because 1 and 2 are again positive statements. So positive statements, positive conclusion from a positive statement, false to nahi hoga. It will either follow or it is possible. It won't be false, right? So 1 and 2 the false nahi hai. Let's look at 3. No bottles are boxes. Okay. अगर मैं स्मार्टली देखूं स्टेटमेंट 1 is certainly false, ये सही नहीं है. Statement 2 and 3 are certainly false, ये भी ठीक नहीं है. Both statements 1 and 3 are certainly false. Again, 1 and 2 we understand are not false. So by elimination, I will reach D. And you can check that no bottles or boxes is false. Okay, so D here is correct. 118. Again, a simple one. If we understand how to draw for only, then we will be able to do this. Only fruits are pasta, so fruits is the outer circle and pasta is in the inner circle. Right? And then it says all noodles are pasta, so a smaller circle of noodles will go inside pasta. Okay. So the correct option here is option A. Only statement 1 is certainly false. So it says here, no fruits are noodles. Okay. Again, we can eliminate 2 and 3 because they are positive statements. And these two given statements are positive statements. So they won't be false. The only false statement could be a negative statement. Okay. No fruits are noodles. We understand that no fruits are noodles is a false statement. Okay. So we'll go with D. 118. Oh, sorry. A, not D. I'll quickly correct this. Only statement 1 is certainly false. Okay. The next one. In the previous one, to be clear, only statement 1 is certainly false. People are always blaming circumstances for the difficulties. Most who succeed in this world are people who get up and look for the circumstances they want. And if they cannot find them, they make them. All right. Which of the following is an assumption? Again, an assumption question. Okay, necessarily taken for granted in the above statement. Failure is always a consequence of not trying hard enough. Always. Looks extreme. Those who do not complain about their circumstances are successful in life. So it says here most, not all. Okay, not all. So B is not an assumption. There is some correlation between desired circumstances and success. Yes, because either, so what is the argument saying? Argument is saying most who succeed in this world are people who get up and look for the circumstances they want. Okay. And if they cannot find them, they make them. So if they do not get the desired circumstances, they make those circumstances that they desire. Okay. So some correlation between desired circumstances and success. Option C is correct. Option C on 119. All right. The next one, online retailers who do not have to pay for overheads such as shop rent and sales staff salaries, owing to which they can charge lower prices for products than, all right. They can charge lower prices for products than brick and mortar stores. The conclusion drawn above logically follows logically if which one of the following is assumed. Online retailers pay lesser salaries than brick and mortar stores. Pay lesser salaries. Okay. It says here they do not have to pay salaries for sales staff. But do they pay lesser salaries? Lesser salaries and not paying salaries for this particular group of people. Uh, Lesser salaries could mean a different thing. They're not paying for this group of people, so they are paying more salaries to the other group. Overall salary is less, but they may be paying for more salaries to some other group of people. Okay, so let's keep it on the side. B, consumers prefer to pay less prices. Prefer, so option B is something which by common sense it looks a good option, but let's look at C. Shop rent and sales staff salaries add to the price consumers have to pay for products. Yes, this for sure is an assumption. Okay, consumers prefer, it is not talked about in the passage, so I will not mark it as an assumption. We do have an option of both B and C, but I would prefer going with C. Again, we'll wait for the answer key here, but according to me, C should be correct. All right, 121. It is statistically proven that those who play sports suffer from less stress than those who do not play sports. In fact, regularly playing sports is associated. Okay, all right. Let's look at the options. Based on the information above, which conclusion necessarily follows? Sports are essential to maintain good mental health. So again, a very tempting option, essential. But you know what? This looks extreme. It says that those who play sports suffer less stress. So sports, less stress. Okay, and it also says playing sports is associated with. It uses the word associated with an overall higher level of mental health. Okay, but is sports essential? Essential would mean necessary. Okay, so is it necessary for mental health? Sports, कि अगर sports नहीं होगा तो good mental health नहीं होगी. Can we draw that extreme conclusion? We are not sure. So according to me, this should not follow. People who are regularly play sports never face mental health issues. Never face. This again is extreme. I would go for D here. Let's check. Let's wait for AILET's response to this question. According to me, it should be D. All right, 122. Since their inception in the 1970s, video games have often been criticized by some for video content. Politicians, parents, and other activists have claimed that violence in video games can be tied to violent behavior, particularly in children, and have sought ways to regulate the sale of video games. Okay. However, numerous studies have failed to find any connection between the video games and violent behavior. Based on the information above, which conclusion necessarily follows? Video games have no relationship with violence. Extreme. Eliminate. Better studies need to be conducted to find a link. Better studies need to be conducted. Is the author saying this? Does the author want this? We don't know. It's just given to us. Numerous studies have failed to find any connection. We don't know whether uh, the author needs more studies. Okay, so we can eliminate this. According to me, option D is correct. All right. In 2008, the Bar Council of India framed the rule stipulating that an advocate is prohibited from advertising or soliciting his work either directly or indirectly through curriculars, advertisements, interviews, doubts, and personal communications. Okay, prohibited from. The idea of the prohibition of advertising practices in the legal profession has been taken from the law in UK. All of this. Based on the information above, which conclusion necessarily follows? The Bar Council of India has copied the law without, without applying its own mind. This is extreme. Two, lawyers in India are not allowed to commend themselves to persons looking for legal assistance. Commend, not allowed to praise themselves, not allowed to commend could approximately mean solicit their services, solicit their work. I think two follows are not allowed because there is a law, there is a rule which prohibits them from soliciting their work in all forms, directly or indirectly. So I think two should follow here. Okay, so I would go for B, Bombay here. Let's wait for the official response again. I would go for B, Bombay. All right, the next one. The government of Kerala has reserved 75% seats in all public educational institutions for persons having domicile status in the state of Kerala. The reason cited by the government is that other states in the country have taken similar measures with respect to their residents. The approach adopted by the state of Kerala is improper because every state authority is required to independently apply its own mind before arriving at a decision. Based on the information above, again a conclusion question, 75% of seats in all public institutions are in fact occupied by persons holding domicile status in the state of Kerala. We don't know this, so this does not follow. Two, the reason behind introduction of domicile reservations by the state of Kerala is not an assessment of backwardness of certain parts of the state. So yes, it says the reason given is because the other states have done it, we have done it. So of course, it is not an assessment of backwardness of certain parts of the state. Okay, we can conclude this, that it is not an assessment of backwardness because the reason for going in for reservation is other states have done it. Okay, so I'll go with B, Bombay here. All right. 125th. All right. So this one here, 1986 disaster at Chernobyl power plant was a direct consequence of Cold War isolation. All right. While no one in the West was under any illusion about the safety of early Soviet nuclear reactor design, some lessons learned have also been applicable to Western plants. Since then, the safety of all Soviet have improved vastly. This is due largely to the development of a culture of safety encouraged by collaboration between East and West and substantial investment in improving the reactors. So, if you go through these options, you would realize option C is the only option that is getting inferred. In B, it says nuclear reactors are superior than Soviet reactor designs. We do not know. Maybe they were believed to be more safe but we are not sure even there. But were they superior than Soviet reactor designs? That is not getting inferred. Financial investment in nuclear was not priority for governments. It was not a priority for the Russian government, but for governments, again, we are not sure. See, the level of collaboration between Western and Eastern nations in the pre-Chernobyl era in relation to safe nuclear reactor designs was lower compared to post-Chernobyl era. This is getting inferred for sure. Pre and post, there was a change, right? Improving the reactors, safety around the reactors. So C is correct here, 125th. All right, so another deductive reasoning question. Again, we refer to the answers that I have marked for them. And you can check the answers using the Venn diagram. All right. So this one here, 126. The correct option here is option D, Delhi. None follows. All right. Then all thieves are persons. Some persons are all thieves are persons. Some persons are dishonest. All dishonest persons go to jail. All right. In this question, we have marked option C. Option C is correct here. 127, option C. All right. So 128. Let's do 128 together. The previous two questions were easy. Most of you would have been able to do it. All black money funds terrorist activities. So there are a series of statements given, and this will test your deductive reasoning rules, concepts. So what I'll do is I'll show you how it has to be solved. All black money funds terrorist activities. So black money funds terrorist activities. All terrorist activities are financed solely by corrupt politicians. So corrupt, financed by corrupt politicians. Okay. All right. Now it says, if the Lokpal bill is passed, financial sources of all corrupt politicians will be frozen. So Lokpal bill is passed, financial sources of all corrupt politicians will be frozen. So they will not be able to finance the terrorist activities. And finally, it says if demonetization is declared, all black money will disappear. So no black money. No black money. So this is what is given to us. Now, if the above statements are true, which of the following follows? One says, if demonetization is declared, funding of terrorist activities will completely stop. So it says demonetization, no black money. So from no black money, can I say no terrorist activities? Actually, no, because that could be a case of mistaken negation. All right. So one does not follow. Two, if the Lokpal bill is passed, funding of terrorist activities will completely stop. So Lokpal bill is passed, uh, the financial sources of corrupt politician will be stopped. If this is stopped, terrorist activities will stop. Contrapositive, no financing by corrupt politicians, no terrorist activity. So this follows. 3. If demonetization is declared and the Lokpal bill is passed, funding of terrorist activities will completely stop. So we know from this condition only, Lokpal bill is passed, not there will be no financing from corrupt politicians, no terrorist activities. So from this condition alone, we can infer funding of terrorist activities will completely stop. So again, 3 follows. So 2 and 3 follow. The correct option here is option D, Delhi. 128, D, Delhi. 129. So again, a series of syllogism questions, and we will be dealing with them very efficiently. By efficiently, I mean I give you the answer key. Okay. All laptops are computers. Okay. All laptops are computers. Some computers are useful, all of this. And here the correct option is if X is a useful laptop. So you know what? In some cases, some of you may not have required to draw the diagram. तो जैसे यहाँ पे लिखा है ना, all laptops are computers, some computers are useful. Everything that is useful is precious. Everything that is useful is precious. And let's look at this one. If X is useful, laptop, it must be precious. So I know this. This will be correct. ABC follow हो रहा है, नहीं हो रहा है, maybe may follow, या फिर नहीं follow, it's okay. But B, I'm sure it follows. So I'll mark D. So here the correct option is D. Okay. The next one again, some of you may not have required drawing the Venn diagram. All democracies, this one here, the correct option is from here itself, right? No dictatorships are elected. All democratic governments are elected. From here itself, we can say X cannot be a democratic country. It is a dictatorship. So option C. Here, 131. All right. 131. Car makers are taking the middle path in their electrification journey in India with powerful hybrids, flagging of green race for 3 leading. Okay, all of this. These manufacturers have no plans of launching an electric car before 2025 and are currently working on localization of hybrid vehicle parts. Okay, the passage assumes which one of the following. A says car makers in Japan have been successful in scaling up production of electric vehicles in the past. This is not an assumption. In the past, Indian customers are unable to afford electric vehicles. Again, this is not implicit in the argument. This is not implied by the argument. C. Manufacturing processes for electric and hybrid vehicles are similar to the extent that production of the latter shall ease future production of the former, and refer to this part. This part. Believe introducing hybrids will eventually lead to higher localization of parts for electric vehicles, making them more accessible to a large customer base. Option C is an assumption. D, there will be no electric car production in India until 2025. The argument is talking only about three leading Japanese car manufacturers. Okay, so option D is extreme. Option C is correct. I would reiterate it that the quality of questions here in the AILET exam was way better than what we saw in the CLAT 2022. Okay, all right. Employers must, this one here, employers must offer flexible working schedules or risk resignations by talented employees. So assumption one is employers should offer flexible working schedules. Yes, this is what the author is intending to say. This is what the assumption is. Otherwise, they will have to face this resignations by talented employees. Okay, so this is what is the assumption behind saying this statement. Okay, so one is an assumption. Two, some employees want flexible working schedules. Yes, and they are ready to resign for it. Some employers value flexible working schedules so much that they would resign if these are not offered. Again, an assumption. So all are implicit. 132, all are implicit. Okay. Again, here I would like to point out that it says here employers must offer flexible working schedules. Okay. Uh, According to me, one is an assumption, but the AILET body could. There is a possibility that they may not give one because they might argue that it is sort of given here. Okay, must offer flexible working schedules. Okay, so let's wait for the answer key on this one again. According to me, all three are implicit, but they might just give option A as the correct option. I, on my part, believe all are implicit. Okay. All right. Even though switching to the next question, even though switching to veganism may be costly and sometimes inconvenient, it is good change if one wishes to improve their chances of leading a healthy life while benefiting the environment. Okay. So A is incorrect for the use of word most. The costs involved and inconvenience of making a change act as deterrents. They act as deterrents. Uh, it is fine up till here, but then it says for most people. Okay, so most according to me is extreme here. I would rather go for option B, which is straightforward and which is an assumption. It is possible to undertake practices that may impact low how healthy a life one lives. So when it says that it is a good change if one wishes to improve their chances of leading a healthy life, the assumption is that it is possible to undertake such practices, right? If it is not possible, then there is no point giving this argument. Okay, so option B, I think, is correct. Okay. So the next 134 and 135, I will leave this for the legal teacher to answer. Let's look at 136. The best telecom services in the world are to be found in South Korea and Japan, and neither country allocates spectrum on the basis of auctions. Spectrum is assigned on the basis of discretion. Okay, so the argument becomes a little fancy in its later part, where it says neither the Japanese nor the Koreans are squeamish about eating almost anything that creeps, crawls, swims, flies, or runs. So they do not bother, right? They are not squeamish about eating anything. But when it comes to geese that lay golden eggs, they apparently lay off. Okay. Uh, it is metaphorical. It is not literal. The author does not mean that they do not include food or they do not include geese in their diet. It is all metaphorical. What it essentially means is geese. When it comes to geese could mean uh, the telecom services. Okay, telecom services that lay golden eggs. Golden eggs would mean the revenue that they generate for the state, for the country. Okay, so when it comes to telecom services that has the potential to lay golden eggs, that has the potential to generate a lot of revenue, they will they will not, they will not eat into the money in the sense that they will not kill that goose. Okay, they will not try to extract revenue out of them through an auction process. They would rather allow them to use the best technology and generate revenue. Okay, so this is in that context. This statement is said in that context. So, which of the following assumptions is made in the above passage? So, option C, governments that wish to provide good telecom services should not auction telecom spectrum, is the assumption here. Option C. The rest of the options are incorrect. If you look at D, auctioning telecom spectrum would generate a great deal of revenue for Japanese. So, according to the author, what they believe is uh, taking revenue from the auction process is a smaller deal. The bigger deal is, the larger or the greater deal is, don't take money from the auction process, but let them use that money in providing the best services. And then they will give the state a big revenue. Okay. So B is therefore, according to me, not correct. Option C should be the correct option here. 136. All right. So 137. Even before the coronavirus, lack of sleep was a simmering public health crisis associated with a suite of maladies. Roughly 10 to 15% people worldwide were suffering from chronic insomnia. Crises such as natural disasters or terrorist attacks are known. Okay, so this question asked us the assumption required by the argument. Okay, the assumption required by the argument, and uh, when I looked at the options, none of the options excited me much. Okay, A and B I was easily able to eliminate. And then when I looked at C, heightened levels of stress contribute to short-term as well as long-term sleeplessness. Okay. Although this is not discussed, but if I were to choose an option between C and D, I would go for C. Okay. It says here crises such as natural disasters or terrorist attacks are known to trigger short-term sleeplessness, and pandemics, unprecedented global impact, threaten to expand the rate of chronic insomnia, which is much harder to treat. Okay, so I am taking a leap here. I am myself assuming that uh, pandemic has led to heightened levels of stress. We should not do this when we are attempting assumption questions. But then none of the options look good in this particular question. I think this was the only question where I had, where I was not convinced with any of the options. Okay, so as I said, uh, this could have been left. Okay, the best way to deal with this was you would have left this question, but then if push comes to shove, I would have marked C, but let's wait for the response. Okay, 138. Scientists say they completed the first. All right, so this one was easy. It said somewhere here now just 10 million bases or letters of human DNA out of roughly 3 billion are unknown. Okay. The conclusion drawn above follows logically if which one of the following is assumed. Again, a sufficient assumption. It is asking us a sufficient assumption, an option that will strengthen. The assumption is true, the conclusion follows. Okay. So option B is straightforward here. It has been possible to complete the full seamless catalog of human genetic instructions using 2.99 billion letters of human DNA. Because in the first line it said they have completed the first full and seamless catalog. In the last line it says now just 10 million bases or letters are left, are unknown. So the missing link is option B, Bombay. Okay. All right. This one here, India should generate solar power to meet its unmet energy requirements. One says solar energy is cheaper. Cheaper, not an assumption. India is capable of generating solar energy. Yes, that's why it says should generate. Should generate. It is possible. It is the country is capable. So 2 is an assumption. 3, India is unable to meet its yes, 3 is also sorry, 3 is also an assumption. Unable to meet its energy requirements using non-solar sources of energy. Option D is correct here. 148. To catch the rats running around in the house, you should use a rat trap. Rats are likely to step into rat traps. Option 1 is an assumption. As an assumption 1, whatever is given as assumption 1 is an assumption. Foods will be kept inside the rat trap. So we are not sure what kind of rat trap it is. Are they using food to lure the rat, or just the design of the rat trap is enough to lure the rat? Okay. So since we are not sure, it is not required. We'll go with option C. Only one is implicit. So a couple of principal facts question. I will leave this for the legal teacher to handle. 144. There must be mandatory vaccination against communicable diseases. Yes, the collective well-being of the population must override individual choice. So this is a strong argument, the collective well-being. It talks about, so whenever we are answering strong, weak arguments, I have said this in the class, we are looking at arguments that make sense, that are reasonable in real world, that are socially, politically, morally are correct, are reasonable. Okay, we can put forth this argument with all the stakeholders in a room. Okay, so this is reasonable. Okay, so argument 1 is strong. 2, individuals must have agency over what they inject into their bodies. This is strong too. Okay, individuals must have the freedom. Okay, so also I said in the classroom that such arguments are looked from a perspective of a democratic country, especially from the perspective of India. So we understand India is a democratic country. We have freedoms. Okay, so even argument freedom of choice, and therefore argument 2 is also strong. Had this argument been presented in a country like China, probably not. But then argument 2 is strong in our in the context of India. Okay. Argument 3, no, this would lead to profiteering by vaccine manufacturers. So I don't think profiteering by vaccine manufacturers is a reason to not go for vaccination. Okay. So they are a company. They are in the business of manufacturing medicines. Of course, they'll make profits. It is not morally incorrect. It is not socially incorrect to make profits. So according to me, argument 3 is not strong. So I'll go with option A here. So whoever the person, as in the copy of the copy that we are using, that person has marked the correct option here. Okay. Option A here. Argument 1 and 2 are strong. Should there be a limit on number of times an individual may be elected as a head of the state? One, yes, it prevents concentration of power in a single individual for a prolonged time and reduces the possibility of misuse of power. Okay, so it looks like a very sound reason, right? It reduces the possibility of misuse of power, and the concentration of power is not in a single individual for a prolonged period of time, and that can be problematic. We have seen in many countries this particular this happening in many countries. Okay, some of the communist countries, this is the case. Okay, so argument 1 is a strong argument. 2, no, an incumbent individual will know how to best run the country given their experience. So, given their experience, again, with will it stand? Will it stand socially, morally, politically? Maybe not, because we may not be able to say every time that more the experience, the better the person is at running a country. Okay, maybe experience is important, but can we say that as experience, can it be forever? As in, the experience keeps on increasing and the ability to run the country keeps on increasing. So it can't be forever, right? So argument 2 is a weak argument according to me. Argument 3, the population must be free to give democratic mandate to the person of their choosing, even if they win multiple elections. Yes, strong argument. Because we have to remember it's still the choice of the people. So both the arguments according to me are strong, and I will go for option B here. Okay. 126, again, a series of, I think, deductive reasoning questions. And I think 146, 147, and 148, and even 149. For these four questions, we had the same. So for 146, 147, and 148, for these three questions, we have the same statements. So that would have made life easier. Okay. So I'll give you the answer key for this. Just a sec. Yes. So for 146, the answer is only 5 follows. Again, these can be easily done using Venn diagram. And you can check. Only 5 follows here. Then the next one, none of the above. 146 is B. The next one, 147. None of the above, D, Delhi. The next one, 148. Only one follows. Option A. One 49. Is a whale, Eiffel Tower. Okay, let me just check. 149. Only 3 and 4 falls. Option B. All right. I will quickly check if there is anything that I've missed on the chat. All right. So 149 is B, Bombay. 150th. 150th is only two follows. Option C. Okay. We have B on 149 and we have C on 150th. All right. So I would like to wrap this up now. So in the end, I would say most questions, the options were straightforward, was not very technical. The CR section was not very technical. There were, you were tested on, obviously you were tested on the deductive reasoning, a lot many questions on syllogism, even conditionals. So yes, as far as the deductive reasoning questions are concerned, there was, you should have known uh, the rules, and you should have been, you should have practiced a lot of core CR questions like assumptions, strengthen, okay, a lot many assumption questions. But having said that, we think a good score here will be anywhere between 42 to 46. Okay, anywhere between 42 to 46 will be a good score in this particular section. Let's wait for the cutoff. All the best for your results. All right, take care.